One of the new giant enemies included with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is the Furnace Golem, a towering monstrosity covered in flames. Initially, you may spot one of these things and say, "Screw that," and run in the opposite direction. But it is well worth taking them down, since they all drop a brand new crystal tear that can be mixed into your flask of Wondrous Physic. Before you start going after these walking furnaces, you should get prepared. You'll want to wear armor and talismans, or use items and incantations that grant you a ton of fire negation. Something like the Flame Drake Talisman +1, +2, or even +3 is something you'll want to slap on. It's also highly recommended that you ride Torrent for these battles, as some of the Furnace Golem's attacks can be very hard to dodge when not on horseback. You'll also want to bring along some Rowla fruits or other treats to restore Torrent's health. Also, and this will seem counterintuitive, the Furnace Golems are weak to fire, so weapons and spells that do fire damage are worth equipping. In terms of their movesets, the Golems have very slow yet devastatingly powerful attacks. One of the first things they'll do upon spotting you is emit a barrage of fireballs that will erupt from the top of their head. These will then home in on your position and follow you to your doom. Best way to avoid these is to ride Torrent away from them and try to head into one direction until they all hit the ground behind you. At points, one of the Golem's legs will start to burn and they'll raise it up before stopping the ground, causing a wave of fire. And they'll sometimes do multiple of these stomps in a row, causing even more fire. There's also a double stomp that they'll do, where they'll jump into the air and then slam into the ground, causing an even more intense wave of fire. Now, the way to dodge all of these is pretty much just by jumping over the ensuing flames, which again is a lot easier to do if you're riding Torrent. The Golem also has some basic attacks like swiping with its arms or smashing the ground. They'll also kick at the ground if you're in front of them, which will send burning rocks in your direction, which will usually kill Torrent and possibly you. The best way to dodge all of those attacks is to stay behind the Golem. As long as you are behind them, they can't really get you with these particular attacks. If you happen to be on a high ledge above the Golem, as you may be in certain situations, the Golem may try to jump up and swipe at you while you're up there, so be prepared to jump away from that. Finally, this last attack is only something I've seen a few of the Golems do, but they may bend down and shoot a huge blast of fire in your direction. And yeah, you're gonna want to run away from that because it's gonna hurt. That's always going to hurt. Now let's talk about how to take down a Furnace Golem. There are two main ways to kill these things. First, there's the long way, which is the stupid way I often took, which is to ride Torrent around and continually whack the Golem's legs. Since they're so tall, the legs are pretty much the ultimate weak point to strike them from. So getting behind the Golem and hitting the legs is your best bet. At first, it may not seem like you're doing a ton of damage, but that's because you're not trying to damage it during this process. What you want to do is focus on one leg until you hear this sound. That means you've hurt one of the Golem's legs. Then do the same thing to the other leg. Then keep on striking these legs, and eventually the Golem will become stunned and topple over. This is your cue to get to the Golem's face, which is where there will be a big, yellow, glowing weak point. Jam your weapon into that, and you'll do massive damage. Depending on your Shadow Tree level, you may have to do this 2 or 3 times to destroy the Golem. Now, the other way to kill a Furnace Golem is much easier, although not always possible. If you could get up onto a ledge or some kind of elevated platform above the Furnace Golem, you can throw a Hefty Fire or Hefty Furnace Pot into their basket. This will inflict a ton of damage, but being able to do this depends on whether or not there's a higher spot nearby that you can reach above the golem, and whether you can craft hefty furnace or fire pots. In order to craft these pots, you'll need to find the Greater Potentate's Cookbook 2, which can be found in an old shack close to the Elak Great Bridge. Then you'll need the ingredients, which include red flesh mushrooms that can be found all over, embers of mesmer, which can commonly be found around the Morth ruins, and furnace visages, which are a little rarer to find as they're usually only available once you've killed a furnace golem or looted them off of dead furnace golems. Now that's how you make the hefty furnace pots. You can also make hefty fire pots if you're unable to craft hefty furnace pots. They're a little less effective, but still get the job done. These can be crafted once you find the Greater Potentate's Cookbook 1 at the Scorched Ruins, and only require red flesh mushrooms and black pyreflies to craft. Alright, so we know how to beat these things, but where do we find them all? There are 8 furnace golems in total that each carry a crystal tier. The first one will be fairly easy to find, as it's one of the very first things that you'll notice upon entering the Graveside Plains, and it's not too far from the Scorched Ruins. Take this big boy down to score the Deflecting Hard tier, which upon drinking from your flask of Wondrous Physic will essentially allow you to treat this game like Sekiro and parry enemies and bosses with your weapon. The next Furnace Golem can be found in front of the Shadow Keep in the Shadow Altis region. Upon taking this guy down, you'll receive the Crimson Burst Dried tier, which will not only give you health regen, but also grant health regeneration for all of your allies, including any summoned players, NPCs, and spirit ashes. Now the next 2 golems will be hidden below the Shadow Keep in a secret little area called the Ruins of Unte. From the main gate plaza, Site of Grace, follow my route to a ladder that will take you down into a watery area, which is actually where you find the Domain of Dragons painting, which I touched on in my How to Turn Into a Dragon video. Then there will be a wall nearby that is actually an illusionary wall that will lead to the Ruins of Unte. Then from the Castle Watering Hole Site of Grace, if you head to the right, the first Furnace Golem around here should pop up from under the water. Kill it, and you'll gain the Oil-Soaked tier, which will coat enemies in oil, allowing you to deal increased fire damage. The other golem here will actually be unlit. This area has a ton of destroyed furnace golems, which makes it the perfect place to pick up multiple furnace visages to craft hefty furnace pots. So craft the furnace pot, and then climb up onto here and toss the pot into the unlit furnace golem to wake it up and fight it. Defeat it to get the blood-sucking cracked tier, which will increase your damage output but decrease your health. Now, if you find Charo's hidden grave, you'll find a golem lurking around here. This one has reinforced legs, meaning that the only way to defeat it is by jumping up onto a nearby ledge via a spirit spring and hucking hefty furnace or fire pots into its basket. Succeed in doing that, and you'll get the Glovewort Crystal Tier, which will increase the attack power of your summoned spirit ashes. You'll run into a Furnace Golem along the Elak River on the way to the Cerulean coast. Defeating this big boy nets you the Viridian Hidden Tier, which will make it so your actions won't deplete your stamina bar. If you head on from the Bonnie Village and go along the path that leads to the Cathedral of Manus Meter, you'll run into a Furnace Golem along the way. I'm fairly certain that this one also has reinforced legs, so you need to hop on to a nearby ledge to throw more of those lovely hefty furnace or fire pots into it. Once it's dead, you'll have the Cerulean Sapping Cracked Tier, which will restore FP when striking enemies. And finally, the last Furnace Golem will be across the bridge here within the West Ancient Ruins region. And bringing this one down will reward you with the 8th and final new crystal tier, the Crimson Sapping Cracked Tier, which in a similar vein to the previous tier, will restore HP upon striking enemies. And there you go, that's where to find all of the Furnace Golems and how to break them apart. And for more Shadow of the Erdtree news and guides, be sure to check out thegamer.com. I'm Jamie Latour, and we'll see you next time.